A very good evening to you this cool Thursday evening. I'm Naja'atu Tijani and with me is Shegun Ajayi. But first, the headlines. President Buhari receives 6 new envoys, makes case for mitigating spread of COVID-19 and impact on humanity. Nigeria flags off National Integrated Specimen Referral Network and Operational Manual for improved health care delivery. Tanzanians for 3 consecutive days bid farewell to late President John Magufuli. And now the news in detail. President Muhammadu Buhari has made a strong presentation to member nations of the international community to work individually and bilaterally towards achieving global peace, which he describes as crucial to sustainable development. Addressing 6 new ambassadors and high commissioners posted to Nigeria, the president also made a case for concerted efforts towards mitigating the spread of COVID-19 and its impact on humanity. State House correspondent Adamu Sambu reports.
It was a highly befitting diplomatic welcome for the new envoys on arrival at the seat of the Nigerian government to formally assume official responsibilities. They are High Commissioner Muhammadu Musa G of the Gambia, Kim Yong Chai of the Republic of South Korea, Thomas Felix of Slovak Republic, John Gerard Donnelly of Australia, High Commissioner Masadur Rahman of Bangladesh, and Ambassador Yao Riberi Butiamko of Guinea-Bissau. President Muhammadu Buhari, who received their letters of credence individually, said Nigeria enjoys very good bilateral relations with their countries, stressing, however, that the cordiality needs to be deepened and expanded in the greater interests of their people.
In addition to the fraternal relations between us, the one thing Nigeria has in common with your countries is peace. Peace is priceless, desirable and crucial to sustainable development and achieving the targets set by the United Nations global initiatives. Achieving global peace is vital to attaining food security. Peace and food security should be pursued simultaneously.
The president also emphasized the need for the countries to come together towards addressing prevailing challenges of terrorism, insurgency, displacement of persons, climate change, population explosion, human trafficking, corruption, poverty, and proliferation of small arms and light weapons, which he said are either sources of conflict or resultant consequences.
These challenges, though on a diverse scale, threaten the existence of humanity and human relations. These challenges underscore the need for the international community to work together to collectively identify appropriate measures to globally overcome these challenges.
Describing the novel coronavirus as humanity's greatest threat, President Buhari said the pandemic does not only affect public health, but also devastates people's economy and livelihood, hence the need for collaborative efforts at mitigating its spread despite the vaccine rollout.
Enhancing the existing cordial bilateral relations between our countries remains a priority. I therefore implore you, in the course of your duties in Nigeria, to build on the successes of your predecessors.
As each of us embark on this tour of duty, would like to reassure Your Excellency that we will spare no effort to contribute our modest but sincere contribution to the strengthening of the excellent relations of fraternity and solidarity that have always existed between the Federal Republic of Nigeria and our respective countries.
During the colorful ceremony held in compliance with the COVID-19 safety protocols, President Buhari wished the new envoys a very successful tenure and promised Nigeria's continued cooperation in fulfillment of their mandates. From the State House, Adamusambu, NTA News.
Let's now join Adebola Brooklyn Sunday for global updates.
European Union leaders are to hold virtual talks to discuss ways of boosting COVID-19 vaccine supplies and improving the rollout of doses across the 27-nation bloc. The European Union Commission is asking leaders to support plans for added controls on vaccine exports, which could affect supply to the UK. Meanwhile, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has suggested that it may only be possible to introduce a vaccine passport scheme once all adults have been administered a jab. He said no decisions had been made, but there will be an update on the idea in April, adding that there were difficult issues like moral complexities, ethical problems that needs to be addressed. Latest figures on the coronavirus dashboard of the World Health Organization at about 7 p.m. Nigerian time shows that 125,707,212 persons have been infected with coronavirus globally, while a total number of 162,178 cases have been recorded in Nigeria. 148,726 discharged with 2,031 deaths. Adebola, Brooklyn Sunday, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the ECOWAS consultative meeting with women and children on Vision 2050 is underway in Abuja to assess the achievements recorded by countries, particularly in the ECOWAS region. Austin Anyebe reports that the meeting is to also focus on women and youth empowerment.
ECOWAS heads of government had adopted a community long-term development policy built to create a borderless, peaceful, prosperous and cohesive region that is built on good governance, where people have the capacity to access and harness the enormous resources through creation of opportunities for sustainable development. The Vision 2050, being developed through collaboration with the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, is to prepare and analyze development programs geared towards the reduction of poverty among women and youths.
The growing number of unemployed youths across the region is a big challenge to all leaders.
As a country, Nigeria has taken several giant strides. Also, not only to enhance the lot of women in the society, either through representational capacities and positions, but also has been deliberate, especially in recent times, in enhancing youth development and empowerment.
The meeting will also create a platform for women and youth leaders to make known their aspirations with a view to capturing specific issues undermining their social well-being. Vice President ECOWAS Commission Finda Kuroma stressed the need for proper attention to the ever-increasing needs of young people who deserve basic social services, including education, health, clean water and security.
The aim of this new development program is to build on the success of Vision 2020 and chart a new development path for the next 30 years based on the aspirations of the community citizens.
The objective has been to formulate aspirations that will reflect the needs and the hopes of the ECOWAS citizens.
Report by the International Labour Organization says due to unemployment in Africa, the youth population is vulnerable to all forms of vices and exploitations. In Abuja, Austin Anyebe, NTA News.
Thank you, Austin. On the health scene, the federal government has flagged off the National Integrated Specimen Referral Network and operational manual for dissemination for improved healthcare delivery in the country. The health minister, Dr. Ehanire Osaki, observed that the new innovation will make healthcare delivery accessible and affordable, especially in remote and hard-to-reach communities. Basi Taipang reports.
The present administration has continued to come up with policies towards making healthcare delivery accessible to every Nigerian, irrespective of location. One of such is the operational manual dissemination that will optimize the self-collection, packaging, transporting, and delivery of specimens while maintaining specimen integrity. Minister of Health sees this development as another stride towards achieving the federal government's core mandate of strengthening the health system to meet the demands of laboratory needs in the country.
In this particular case, emphasis is on efficient. Policies are developed to address needs, and this is the first document developed to formally address issues of integrated specimen referral.
The manual will also provide guiding principles and prescribed methods for clinical specimen transportation, processing, and handling, as well as test result delivery within the network. Basi Taikba, NTA News.
To speak more on the National Integrated Specimen Referral Network and Operational Manual for Improved Healthcare Delivery in the country, we have in the studio virologist Professor Oyewole Tomori. We're glad to have you with us in the studio.
It's my pleasure.
Now, the federal government just flagged off the National Integrated Specimen Referral Network Policy Manual. Now, as chairman of one of the technical committees which birthed this new policy, what does this mean for the health sector?
Thank you very much. I think this means improved diagnostic for diseases in the country. The earlier you can get the samples to the laboratories to do the testing, the better you can start your response. So what this system is doing is to ensure that samples are correctly collected and maintained, the integrity is maintained during transportation, and they get to the lab as quickly as possible so that results can be given back to the people who need to make a response. This is initially for a few diseases, but the plan is to integrate it to virtually every disease that's occurring all over the country and different parts of the country, so that to ensure that samples are collected timely, maintained, integrity is maintained, and results are sent back quickly for action to be taken.
Now, how will Nigerians benefit from this, especially the rural dwellers?
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
How will Nigerians, especially the rural dwellers, benefit?
Oh, exactly. Thank you very much. As I mentioned, I said anywhere disease is occurring in any part of the country, the aim is to ensure that the level of the healthcare worker can't take any sample. The training will allow them to be able to collect the sample instead of sending somebody from Abuja somewhere to go and collect. The aim is to ensure that health workers at every level are trained to make the right collection and maintain those samples in a way that when it gets to the lab can do a proper test for them. So every little hamlet in any part of the country will have enough somebody there who can take the right sample and ship it in the right direction. And that's why the network of transportation is important.
Now, Professor, we understand you've taken your first jab of the COVID-19 vaccine. Can you share your experience with us?
Oh, I mean, this was a hilarious thing for me. I took it yesterday around 5 o'clock, and up to now, like I was telling some of my colleagues, I said I woke up this morning 5 years younger than I was the day before. It was exciting. I had no pain, nothing on my body. Even now, as I'm talking to you, you know that nothing. I don't have any problem with it. And I think I'll encourage everybody to go for this. The earlier we take it, the better for all of us. Then the better we can return to the normalcy which we have been waiting for. Because if all of us who are here get the vaccine, then we can begin to do away with a face mask and things of that nature, and life can return to normalcy. So please go and get your own vaccine. That is what will save us as a country.
So it's great to see you're in high spirits following your first jab. Thank you very much for joining us and shedding more light on the National Integrated Specimen Referral Network Policy Manual.
It was my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor. Now we'll take a break and there'll be more reports after the timeout.
Latest entrant, latest technology. Welcome to Intel 4G LTE Advanced and experience super fast internet access today. Visit intel.com.ng or any of our stores in Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt to get started. Intel. Live more.
Thanks for staying tuned. President Muhammadu Buhari says Nigeria is on the path of becoming a regional and global fertilizer powerhouse, hinged on the fact that new basic chemical platform for the production of fertilizers worth $1.3 billion is to be inaugurated in the coming months. The president said this at a virtual audience with members of the Fertilizer Producers and Suppliers Association of Nigeria on the giant strides recorded in the production of the agricultural input in the country. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports.
The new plant, a product of an agreement signed between Nigeria and Morocco, will produce ammonia, phosphoric and sulfuric acid, as well as various NPK fertilizers to complement the existing Dangote and Indorama chemical facilities, which produce urea and other industrial raw materials.
When we combine these projects with the existing 44 blending plants, Nigeria will indeed become a regional and global fertilizer powerhouse.
President Muhammadu Buhari described as delightful that even when Nigeria went through recessions, investments in the fertilizer and agricultural input sector continued to grow, commending the nation's fertilizer producers and suppliers for the progress made in the last 5 years.
Though many investors choose to take their monies out of Nigeria, you continue to invest. Today, we have seen the fruits of your smart, long-term, and patriotic decisions. Another commendable trait worth mentioning is that all your investments have been balanced between urban and rural Nigeria. These are the types of investments needed to address the unemployment and security challenges our nation is facing today.
As the president explained, lack of employment prospects and opportunities is a major contributor to the challenges of security, saying, however, that the federal government is committed to ensuring that worthy investments in rural Nigeria survive and indeed flourish.
It is important to note that peace and prosperity can only be sustained if we collectively and actively support investments that take opportunities to our rural citizens. I therefore urge our governors, bankers, investors, and entrepreneurs to look beyond our cities when it comes to investments. As we have seen from Nigeria's 5-year fertilizer revolution, if investors are willing to endure the short-term start-up pains, they will surely benefit from long-term sustainable and substantial gains.
The President, Fertilizer Producers and Suppliers Association of Nigeria, Mr. Thomas Etu, had told President Buhari that the mission he gave the association to reduce Nigeria's reliance on import, enhance fertilizer availability and affordability, as well as create jobs over a 4-year period has been accomplished. He said from 3 blending plants operating at 40% capacity in 2016, Nigeria today has 44 blending plants, most of which are operating at full capacity, and 60% of raw materials used in fertilizer production is sourced locally.
Mr. President, on behalf of them, we are saying thank you very much. The Anchor program is working, the initiative of the PFI is working, the empowerment of the fertilizer industry is working.
The FEFSAN leader also added that from being an unbankable sector that was on the verge of bankruptcy, members of the association in the last 3 months alone have been able to raise bank guarantees to a tune of about 100 billion naira. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
And now to legislative matters, where loopholes in the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency Establishment Act has necessitated an amendment. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Umkwo reports that a bill to that effect has passed second reading in the Senate and is being subjected to public hearing. Now we'll take the next report. That report will come in subsequent bulletins. The House of Representatives is advocating more involvement of local players in commercial activities on coastal waters. A bill to that effect, sponsored by Representative Linda Ikpeazu, seeks amendment to the Coastal and Inland Shipping Act of 2003. The amendment will ensure that the use of foreign vessels for commercial activities on domestic or inland coastal waters are restricted. It would also enable the promotion and development of indigenous tonnage. The bill makes provision for the establishment of a cabotage vessel financing fund. The bill was referred to the House Committee on Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency for further legislative action after being passed at second reading. Now, more than 50% of the 500 billion naira budgeted for the implementation of the Economic Sustainability Plan, which is designed to cushion the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic on Nigerians, has been released, with more than 2 million jobs saved and created. The Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, made this known at the monthly meeting of the Committee on the Implementation of the Economic Sustainability Plan, chaired by Vice President Yemi Oshibajo. Now, the federal government is set to assist 1 million youth to access the international market directly and another 10 million to be employed across non-oil export value chains in the next 10 years. The executive director of the Nigerian Export Promotion Council, Olusegun Awolowo, disclosed this at a youth training program on export procedures in Abuja. Benny Adams was there for NTA News.
Corps members about to complete the compulsory one-year service to fatherland. After now, what next?
Delivering poultry products such as eggs, the chickens from one part of the country to the other. That's before joining school. But now I'm into ICT.
Intend doing more. Is all this a family of a thing, being having a livestock like that?
Then, if I've grown to an extent, I see I've grown to the extent that I can establish such a way that I've met some market demands in Nigeria for the sort how the market flows. Then I plan to go to the export side of it as well.
Thankfully, Idris Abubakar and some of his colleagues are already entrepreneurs, but that in itself is not enough.
So it's the role of the Nigerian Export Promotion Council to instruct them, to inform them appropriately on the provisions of the government for youth inclusion in the non-oil export sector.
You produce a product in the UK, you bring it back to Nigeria. I look at the product and I see the technology behind the product, and I can decide to import that technology and start repeating the same thing in Nigeria.
The training is expected to assist the federal government plan of taking 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in 10 years. Benny Adams, NTA News.
On a sad note, it's the third consecutive day of bidding farewell to the late president of Tanzania, John Magufuli. Adebola Brookslyn Sunday at a glance takes a look at the man popularly called the bulldozer.
Tens of thousands of Tanzanians have been paying their last respects to the late president. While some weep, some throw flower petals as the casket was transported across the country in motorcade. Tanzania gained her independence in 1961, and John Pombe Magufuli, who died at the age of 61, was the fifth president of the Coast Lake nation. He earned his nickname Tinga Tinga, meaning the bulldozer in Swahili, due to his resolute action in favor of housing for the poorest. With 58% of the votes, he was elected president for the first time under his Chama Mapinduzi party, which has been in power since the country's independence in October 2015, when he succeeded Jakaya Kikwete. He stands out for his resolute action in favor of the poor. he took series of drastic measures which included cancellation of independence ceremonies, describing it as too costly. He also put pressure on big companies in the country, forced them to let the Tanzanian state have a stake in their capital. Even as Tanzanians grieve, it is also time to reflect on the late President John Pombe Magufuli's legacy. Public affairs analyst Jide Ojo spoke on some of the legacies.
He started with himself, cut down his salaries from $15,000 to $4,000 per month. He cut down on foreign travels for civil servants in Tanzania. When you also look at the infrastructural development that he was able to put together for Tanzania, is awesome. He was able to bring prudence and accountability into governance. And he lived a very simple life. John Magufuli actually left his footprint in the sands of time.
His death, most Tanzanians say, created a political vacuum and will fundamentally reshape the country's history. Adebola, Brooklyn Sunday, NTA News.
Thank you, Adebola. Over now to our sports desk for updates with Tamara Ibiwe.
With Burkina Faso and Guinea picking tickets to next year's Africa Cup of Nations in Cameroon on Wednesday, analysts believe the remaining matchday 5 fixtures this weekend will bring out the best in the contending teams as the battle rages on.
We know how upsets come about when it comes to the qualifiers or even in competition, so they have to keep their eyes peeled. So then you have the match between Sierra Leone, the match between Lesotho and Sierra Leone. For me, it's a 50-50 match.
Oyo State and Kwara State will file out in the final match of the 38th Ramat Cup in Kano on Friday, after both teams claimed semi-final victories, with Oyo beating Ogun 2-1, while Kwara defeated Bauchi by a lone goal. And finally, as the maiden National Principals Cup enters its final in Abuja, coordinator of the tournament and director of grassroots sports development at Demola Are tasked national sports federations on proactiveness as a means of boosting the sector.
They must go back to age group competitions, not waiting for Olympic Games, all African Games, and then waiting for federal government to dole out money for them.
The national finals of the maiden Principals Cup is slated for March 27 to 30 at the Moshood Abiola National Stadium, Abuja. With sports update, Tamara Ibiwe, NTA News.
Sports update concludes the news on NTA International. Thanks for watching, but remember to connect with NTA and stand against rape and rapists. I'm Naja'atu Tijani, and Shegun Ajayi helped out with Nigerian Sign Language.